A reading from the Gospel of John. Before the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hand, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know what I am doing now, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Then Peter said to him, "Lord, not only my feet then, but my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him, and for this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet, had put on his robe, and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is who I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought also to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so I say to you now, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You should also love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. The Gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So this most holy night, penultimate to Good Friday and the preciousness of this Triduum, is a time for us to reflect on the movements and experiences of Jesus leading up to his death. Tonight, usually we would be having a meal together that would sort of gather us into a sense of what that Last Supper was like for Jesus, and we would share in the consecration of the blessed body and blood of our Lord Jesus, and then we would keep that reserved sacrament and put it on the altar of repose. We would strip the altar. We would acknowledge the solemnity of all that has gone before that time of his crucifixion. Tonight, obviously, we're not going to be able to do most of those things, but we can remember what it must have been like for those disciples to experience the Last Supper. Now, when you think about that Last Supper, it's kind of like a drama, right? And all the different characters are there. When you think about virtually any narrative, any storyline you know, there are certain things that are just components of that narrative, right? There's the hero, and the hero has a problem that needs to be solved. Generally, the hero has a love interest, somebody that motivates him, some goal that motivates him. Then there's the villain who comes in and tries to lure the hero away from the goal and undermine the goal. And then there's the guide. And the guide is generally that wise person who does everything possible with all the resources available to help the hero achieve the goal. Well, think about this story of the Last Supper, this time when Jesus was sitting at a table maybe similar to this one, or probably a bit bigger, and he was there with his disciples reclined and eating, and we have a similar set of characters, right? Who's the hero? Well, in this story, I think it's safe to say that the hero is Jesus, and that his goal from the get-go, birth to death, is the salvation, the wholeness and restoration of humanity and the whole earth. Then we have the villain. Clearly the villain is Judas Iscariot. We have the love interest, which is basically the love that Jesus had for all those around the table, those who are named and those who remain unnamed, all the way to the current time. Humanity is Jesus' love interest. And then we have the guide. What's very interesting about this narrative is that Jesus takes us from the point at which he's the hero and all those around the table are sort of the love interest, the followers, and when God had been the guide for Jesus, now Jesus is showing each person around that table, and indeed us, what it looks like to be a guide. He takes the resources within himself and he washes the feet of the disciples and he says, I have been your master and Lord, but now I am your servant and I want you to be like that for one another. That's an amazing thing for the hero to do, for the hero to become the guide, for the hero to say, I'm giving you the task. I'm trusting you to do the very thing that I myself am going to die doing, which is loving and serving and caring for the restoration of the world. So here is Jesus giving us this model, and here are we together in this really difficult, almost surreal situation where we can't even be together. We can't wash each other's feet if we wanted to. We can't really help each other in many of the ways that we're used to doing. And yet Jesus has given us a model of what we can do in our own situations. So think about this. I heard someone recently say that at any given time we are all the characters in our own story. We are our own victim, our villain. We are our own love interest. We are the hero of our own story, and we are the guide. Where are you in that place right now, in this time of being cooped up, maybe alone in your own place, in your own house, in your own apartment? Maybe it's being with a whole group of people and you're really tired of being with them and you're ready for a break and you can't have one and you're pretty much feeling like the victim, either the victim or the villain. Jesus invites us to be the guide, to use all the resources that we have within us, leaning on on the Lord and on the love that God gives us, so that we can let everybody around us be the hero of their story, so that we can help them feel empowered. Take our eyes off ourselves, which is really hard to do right now, but focusing on those around us and how we can enhance where they're at. Maybe they're not in the same room with you, but who can we call on the phone? Who can we write a letter of encouragement or condolence or whatever it is that we can do? How can we focus on doing that? What a beautiful thing that where we're at right now would so beautifully be pivoted into from the place that Jesus was at the Last Supper. So may we be in this time aware of the love of Jesus Christ for us, of the ways in which Jesus invited his disciples to be guides for others, to be servants and lovers. And may we wait on the Lord, wait with him in prayer, and attend to our own spirituality as we move through these days, knowing that somewhere ahead we have an Easter moment in 2020, and that even on Sunday we will experience again the fresh, powerful hope of the resurrection.